Hello everybody, Michael Landfield here and thank you for joining me. So today's video is again about rescuing animals. So especially when it comes to vegans and other people that are fanatics about pets. Now, I love all life and all lives matter to me and all life is precious. Now, we need to realize that, first of all, number one, we can't save every animal. Okay? Number two, saving animals require money and money to be thrown out the window, money that could be spent on vegan advocacy. Vegan advocacy or buying healthy, nutritious food or, you know, things like that, paying for internet, all that kind of stuff. Now, just imagine, set number two, just imagine that, oh, sorry, for number one also, basically we would be wasting, or I shouldn't say wasting, but we would be spending more time tending to these animals and paying for food and, buying their food, going to the supermarkets or wherever, buying their food, and less time on, again, on vegan advocacy. So we have to spend as much time as we can sharing veganism with people. So that's number one. Number two is that, let's just say there is a human that is suffering out there, on the streets, and they don't have food or they don't have, shelter or anything like that. Well, if we rescue every animal that we see on the road that needs help, then why shouldn't we rescue all the humans? And that, because people are speciesist and they only choose one animal, certain types of animals like dogs and cats usually. Of course, some people do rescue other animals, but they usually rescue cats or dogs. And they find that, they're really speciesist, really. They're not even vegans, to tell you the truth. And when we think about it, why aren't they rescuing snakes and why aren't they rescuing, spiders, and why aren't they rescuing all these animals? All they're injured or all they need, you know, they need to come out from the. No, animals were here before humans were here. Now, I understand dogs and cats were domesticated and we domesticated them and, or we bred them and domesticated them. And, yeah, some animals can't fend for themselves outdoors or, because of the cold or whatever, they need to come in and things like that. But all animals originally came, no matter if we domesticated them or not, all animals came from nature. So, yeah, we screwed up the whole system, and now we want to play God and we want to rescue every animal we can, or at least a lot of animals that we can. And when we rescue those animals, yeah, it's great. We rescue those animals, and for them, it means the world to them for sure. But then at the same time, we kind of put them in cages and big fence, small fence. It's actually not even big, but it's small fenced-in areas where really, yeah, they have you know they have a better life, but they're not free. They're not free. So what we really need to do is we need to figure out a way we can rehome them into nature. And most animals can be rehomed into nature, but people just don't do it the right way or they keep them in captivity too long before they can be released and all that kind of stuff. So when we understand how important it is to share veganism with people, because look, first of all, we're in this mess now in the world today, and nothing's going to get better unless we continue as much as we can to try to share veganism with people as much as we can. And if we're taking a lot of time, tending to companion animals, and if we have, especially if we have, more than three or four or whatever, however many animals we have, it's going to be hard because we have to tend to a lot of them. We have to feed them, we have to sometimes bathe them, and sometimes brush their teeth, and all this kind of stuff. And I understand it's like kind of same way with children. We understand now it's so important to share veganism with people. And if we keep burying children and having, whole families, so many children, big families, then we would, of course, spend less time on vegan advocacy. Now, it's true that if we were in nature and we were living in nature, we wouldn't really understand or be worried about the problems that we're facing in the world because we really wouldn't know unless we were on the internet or we were watching the media news on TV or something like that. But we wouldn't really know. We're just living our lives in nature and we would do what's natural for us. Now, we really don't know what is natural, how many children we would really have, or how many, in nature we wouldn't have companion animals. We would just live our lives with the free roaming animals, and we would just do what we can to try to work in harmony with nature and the other free roaming animals. And again, we wouldn't have pets, dogs or cats or any other pet. We would just respect nature and respect life around us, all living beings that were around us. And we would have just enough children, maybe one or two, I would think. We wouldn't have so many because it's nowadays where we're trying to have so many children. And I mean, yeah, it's true that nowadays there are some people that are only having one kid or even having vasectomies or tubal ligations. But to realize that now is important because we understand that, especially with the internet and so forth, we understand that there's so much suffering, there's so much violence around us. And to realize that it's not going to get better until I mean, yeah, it's good that we stopped um, eating animals and we stopped eating animal products and using animals for anything, supporting the use of animals. But it's just like someone who doesn't support child slavery or child, pornography or something like that. It's like, do you really not support that kind of stuff? It doesn't seem like it because you're not vehemently opposing these kind of things. And I seriously feel that animal agriculture is the result of all these things that we're facing now in the world. All these lot of these problems are the result of animal agriculture and what we do to non-human animals, especially for food. So that is why I often, very often on this channel, talk about these issues pertaining to ownership of any animals. And it's very true, no matter what, if we're taking care of an animal, okay, we own that animal. There's just no doubt about it. We own that animal. And people equate it to, well, yeah, but I own my daughter too. And it's like, yeah, you own your daughter to a certain extent. Your daughter or your son or whoever, your kids are yours, yeah, for sure, but they came out of you, so they're actually part of you. But once they come out of you, and once they're able to, formulate their own thoughts and things like that, maybe after the age of 9 or 10 or 12 or whatever, then yeah, then they have the right to formulate their own minds and their thoughts and whatever, and eventually, go on their own way, to make their own lives. Just like birds, children of mothers and fathers, they just eventually create their own families. They fly away and create their own families, and fish too. So that's the thing. When it comes to rescuing, we also really don't understand a lot about rescuing. I'm talking about just rescuing, okay, and taking time away. This video basically is about taking time away from vegan advocacy and realizing that it's so important that we spend as much time as possible promoting veganism as much as we can through our, through whatever means it is, however you feel that you best promote veganism. And even if we get 5 or 10 views on our YouTube videos, or if nobody buys or very few people buy our books, or if you stand on a corner street and 9 out of 10 people disregard your message or don't like your message, that's fine. If one person likes that, who knows? Maybe that person will share it to hundreds or thousands of people. That person will go vegan, and that person will be a seed of. So don't think that your actions are not doing anything. It's not really making change in this world. It's actually really making a difference. It's really making a difference. And we do make a difference, one person. I mean, if we're just at home and we're vegan and that's it, and we're not doing anything else, we're not really consciously and spiritually evolving, going further and questioning society, and we're not, doing more, we're not telling other people, then yeah, it's good. It's absolutely good that we're not supporting that industry for sure. But let's not stop there. Let's not be like, oh, I'm done now. I'm vegan, so I'm done. No, Dr. Will Tuttle talks about this as deep veganism and really going further and questioning our society and culture and governments, police, and all that. And so the whole idea is really to question everything, to really analyze everything, to question everything. Someone who is a minimalist and doesn't have much money, very little income, I can attest to this, that rescuing is, not the right thing. And I've been in situations before where I had to choose, I had to really make tough decisions where animals were suffering and, even humans were suffering. And sometimes there's just no way to help them. There's no way to help them. And you would love to help them. Just no way to help every single animal. And I think the thing is, once we start to think differently, our reality changes, our physical reality changes. So whatever we see out there changes. So if we see beauty and we envision, a utopian world, and we envision, beauty and positivity for the state of the future and our lives and so forth, then we're gonna see that, externally. We're gonna see that. We're gonna visualize that in the external. We're gonna really see that in the physical world. And though there's a lot of, violence, and we see that all around us, and there's a lot of destruction. I mean, I see a lot of destruction with the environment. I see a lot of destruction and violence to non-human animals and to humans as well. And it's because that part of me that I'm seeing is not healed within me. And so when people see and they get angry at someone or something or a situation or an event or whatever, that part of them is just not healed. And so that is what we really need to do. We need to heal that part within us, or those parts within us. And to realize that rescuing is really not the answer. Rescuing is really not the answer. And it may be temporarily, like a situation for animals, to help them in temporarily, and then to re-release them into nature, or at least to have an area. So there's a lady, I forget her name, something King, I can't remember now, but she owns a sanctuary, and it was the first time I heard her. Well, one of the first times actually. I think I listened to another podcast with her, but Renee Sonny King or something like that. She owns the one sanctuary called I even forgot the sanctuary name, but Rowdy Girl Sanctuary. Okay, so Rowdy Girl Sanctuary, basically she thinks that all animals should be free. She doesn't like the idea that animals are caged, and they're in small fenced-in areas, and they're in barns. Especially during the cold weather, they're locked up like most of the time. She doesn't like that, and she really wishes that instead of euthanizing animals and all that kind of stuff, to have kind of like some land, to get land and to just release animals into the wild, basically. Cows and chickens and all these animals, they're supposed to be free. Really, they're supposed to be free. Now it's a different story, of course, if um, if it's like really, really cold weather or something like that. But animals can take care of themselves, and even if not, nature takes care of these animals. Now you might think that, oh, some animals can't fend for themselves out in the city, and it's a tough situation. I've written about it in my book, Return to the Gentle Sea for the Love That Lives in Everyone. And I talk about how no situation is really the best situation. Sometimes there's really no good situation. And so you can't, if you're living in a city, you can't just throw animals out on the streets. It's not ethical, of course, to do that. But at the same time, it's not that, that ethical as well to keep animals indoors. Now, there are some people that say, well, yeah, my animals are free. They go out, they come back just for food or something, and they and I let them, roam free. Then there's of course implications of from that. There's a lot of implications for that. Letting them roam free. Then there's basically the understanding that they're going to catch small animals and they're going to kill, the animals. But that's what animals in nature do. That's what animals in nature do. They kill other animals. If they're carnivorous or omnivorous, they will kill animals. That's natural. That's natural. But then they will say also, oh, but these animals are not natural and everything. It's like, doesn't matter if they're not natural or not. Their biological instinct is nature, is to live free in nature. Okay? Now we're the ones who created this total artificial society where we have cities and now and we have all these kind of oil mining and river building dams and all kinds of stuff, right? And we're infringing on animals' rights. We're infringing on these animals' rights. They literally have very little space out in nature. And we keep on building roads and we keep on building, these factory farms, and we keep on building these things that are making naturally free roaming animals' homes smaller and smaller. So we're the ones who should be examining. We shouldn't be fixing the situation. We should be removing our greed, our destructional habits, and changing our way of thinking, basically. We shouldn't be just rescuing, that's the answer. No, let's educate people on these ideas that we need to basically leave nature alone, leave absolutely nature alone, leave the free roaming animals in nature alone, leave all the domesticated animals alone, okay? Re-release the animals into wild nature and let them be. Let nature take care of everything. We are not gods, and we're not here to dominate and to kill and to destroy everything. Okay? Now, there are always going to be people that disagree with this because they are speciesist. Plain and simple. They're not vegans, they're speciesist. Okay? Now, for people who already have domesticated animals or have, some kind of animals living in their, backyards or in their farm or wherever, just to say that we need to take care, as best care as you can for them. Now, there's going to be so many situations and hard, difficult situations that we need to really analyze and really figure out, like, is this the best situation for this animal? Can I do better? Can I feed this animal vegan? Or can I at least, like sometimes there is no good situation. Sometimes we just have to do our best. Like, for example, feeding carnivorous animals and omnivorous animals vegan food is not ethical at all. But at the same time, if we're feeding them animal foods, that's not ethical either. So what do? Nothing's ethical in this situation. Because first of all, We have the animals either in our homes or our backyards. That is not ethical to begin with. Having animals to begin with, having all these rescued animals is not ethical, period. Okay? Now, they're not free. No matter how much you see them as the family and they're one of the same and, all this kind of stuff, they're not free. They're enslaved, unfortunately. Now, unfortunately, they may have, fortunately, they may have better situation. Maybe they were going to be killed before or euthanized, or maybe they were in a abusive family, or maybe they were outside in the cold or whatever. And maybe the situation is way better. And I understand it's way better. And we treat the dog or the cat as one of the family members. And we're like, yeah, we take the best care we can of this animal. And yeah, we do so, and if we can, to re-release that animal back into nature as best as we can. Okay? And if not, then we have to, of course, do the best that we can, housing these animals and, that kind of stuff. But then at the same time, we don't have the freedom, as much freedom. We have to leave them with somebody if we go on a holiday. We can't go anywhere, do anything that we really want to. We can't, go away from our house for 3 or 4 days because there's so many animals to take care of. Even if we get other people to take care of them, it's not the same really sometimes, and really, it's a difficult situation, and a lot of times it just doesn't work. Okay, because we are spending time. It's a different story if we were out in nature somewhere and we were living in nature and away from the whole problem is that we got ourselves into this mess in the beginning by domesticating animals, breeding them, by eating animals and animal foods, and seeing animals as property, seeing nature as property, and creating societies and cities. That's the problem. We need to get out of that whole mess. We need to get it far away as possible from society and cities and governments and all this kind of nonsense where we're being violent, totally violent towards ourselves. So recently, a friend of mine, Christina, she created a video about me, kind of a spoof video, and it was quite funny. And I know she wasn't really, like saying that I'm a bad guy or he's an idiot or something, or she wasn't like angry at me or anything. She understands. She read a lot of my books and she understands the issues that I'm posing here. And the reason why I really harp on certain topics and issues and really like try to get down to the nitty-gritty details, because I think it's so important to understand that we're facing, and especially to this video, we're facing tremendous times, hard times, like especially during this pandemic. It's like we have no time. We have maybe, yeah, scientists keep saying, yeah, we got 10 years, we got 10 years, we got 10 years. And they've been saying that since, whatever, the 1960s or 70s, that we have only 10 years the way we're going, or we have this many years or whatever. And it's like the planet will still be here. Okay. But what's happening now is that we are causing so much destruction worldwide to everything. We're acting like we're gods and we think we can do anything in the world. We think we can like destroy everything and there's no repercussions. We think we can kill off all the animals in the oceans and we can have wars and it's okay. And it's like, oh, we got to fight terrorists now. And we got to fight these people and we got to fight this country and we got to go to war and all this stuff. Look, we are so screwed up. We're in this mess today, so screwed up. And it is not our job to fix society, to reform society, to reform governments, to vote for new politicians and presidents or prime ministers. It's to create a new system, a completely new system. Instead of fixing the system of domestication of animals, especially the pet population, it's to create a totally new system. And that is what people are missing, especially vegans are not doing this. I mean, 99% of people, most likely 90, maybe 90, 98, 99% of the world's population, however many, truly, however many people there are, doesn't matter. They're living in society. They're conforming to governments, you know. Now, I understand sometimes governments come in or the police force come in and they aggressively attack people, small families and whatever, and they say, you got to do this and you got to do this and you got to get vaccinated and all this kind of stuff. I understand there is sometimes very difficult situations here, okay? But if majority of us in the Western countries, just in the Western countries, a majority of us, at least half, maybe more of the percentage of people of the population stop conforming and become anarchists, complete non-conforming anarchists, meaning completely move themselves away from society, governments, and all that kind of stuff, and as much as possible from the monetary system, then we will have a total revolution, an evolution and revolution. We will have a total utopia, or at least it will start. We will start to have a complete creating a utopian world. So that's what we need. We need to not conform to any of these things. We need to create a new world. We need to create a new world. If something doesn't work, if the society doesn't work, why do we keep trying to reform? Why do we keep trying to change it? Why do we keep trying to educate? Education is good, but let's strive to create a new world, new communities based on non-conformity, based on anarchism, based on not supporting governments and all this kind of stuff, and to exercise our birthrights. To exercise our birthrights. That's right, to exercise our birthrights, which number one is our birthright to a fair share of land, water, and I mean fair share, and I don't know really what that fair share is, but according to what I've read, around 2 acres, maybe less or more, but our fair share of land, water, clean water, plant foods, and seed. Okay, that's number one. And number two is our birthright our birthright as sovereign individual human beings. Our birthright as sovereign individual human beings, which means no ownership. Like we only own our bodies. Nobody can do anything with our bodies. And of course, us being non-violent to ourselves and to others as well. So that is the whole thing. These two things are the most important, even though, of course, there's a birthright to privacy and there's a birthright to nudity and there's a birthright, a few of them, but these are the main two ones, the main two big ones that we need to really understand, that we have the birthright to our fair share of plant foods, water, land, and seed. Those things. And that we are birthright as a sovereign individual human being. Okay? Nobody has the right to tell us what to do. And we've been forced in it by our parents and by governments to conform, to have a birth certificate and passports and all these things. And we are scared to want to get out of that whole system. We're scared to want to get, because if we don't, if I go out in nature, someone's going to kick me off, or the police are going to come, and I'm going to be, I'm going to end up in jail. And I'm scared. I don't want to do that. I don't want to end up in jail. So that's the whole thing. People are scared because the problem is everybody is conforming and everybody's doing it. First of all, we're scared because we just don't want to be thrown into jail. And secondly, we want to conform. We don't like to be different, so we want to conform to the whole thing. So that's mainly what it is. And getting back to the domestication and the pets, that's the same thing. We need to create a new system. We cannot continue rescuing, because people usually just rescue and there's no solution. I mean, rescuing is not a solution. Tell you the truth, rescuing is not a solution. First of all, we're taking an animal from a really horrible situation, most likely. Maybe that would have been killed, or maybe he's in some kind of really bad situation, and we're putting them in a little bit better situation, okay, or much better situation. But it's not the best situation. The best situation for them is to let them be in nature, let them go to nature, let them take care of themselves. They may die, they may not die, but that's life, that's nature. That's just how it is. We have to let nature and life take its course. Sometimes we feel like we do want to help, and like of course I want to help every animal and I want to help every human, but that's just not ethical from many, many different perspectives and many different angles. I mean, I would love to have 100 animals here and everything and have a sanctuary, but it's not feasible and it's not practical. It's the money is going out to help these animals, and of course every animal matters for sure. But at the same time, we're actually wasting our time not promoting veganism as much as we can. So it just doesn't make any sense. In the long run, doesn't make any sense. In the short run, doesn't make any sense. Unless we just house in one or two animals, and then eventually, within the 6 months or whatever, or a year, release them back into nature. So there's so many solutions, but people just don't think, or and even living in colder climates, living up north somewhere. I mean, that's not a good thing. I mean, that's not natural. We're not meant to live in cold climates. We're meant to live in the tropics or even subtropical areas, and most animals that live up in those northern climates, they have adapted. A lot of them have adapted to living in those areas. So it's possible, if animals have gone there, it's possible for them to eventually adapt to these climates, after so many decades or centuries, to adapt to certain climates. So this is a long video, but I just want to get people to really understand that we need to start questioning and creating a new world, a new vegan world community. And that's what my forum is all about, even though I haven't really been active too much in it, just in the beginning. But you can check it out on peaceful-village.com/forum, FORUM. But all the description and the link will be down below this YouTube video. But yeah, I thank everybody for doing what they're doing to try to at least understand these ideas, even if you still have companion animals, or even if you're still living in society, to start understanding these ideas and to really understand, okay, now that I have companion animals, what do I do? How do I go from here? How do I, move to the tropics? How do I do all this kind of stuff, I mean, how do I really become an anarchist? How do I live out in nature without governments and police like intervening and throwing me in jail and all that kind of stuff? How do I do that? Like, these are all questions that I question as well, because I don't have all the answers. I'm not one of these people that are living completely free in nature without any police or government interference. I don't know how to really do that. I still have yet to learn all about all these things, but at least in the next, so many years, I would like to be out there living in nature freely, at least more freely, as much as I can, and eventually to denounce my citizenship and my status in society, because I don't want any part of society. I really don't want any part of society. Now, I understand there are times when you may need still society, like public transportation, or you may need some internet or things like that. And it's, all these things are created by either city services, by the government, or by big multinational corporations. I understand this and I understand all this kind of stuff. But the whole idea, when we first started, we were living back thousands of years ago. We were living in nature and most likely in harmony with all life around us, and protecting the earth and growing as much food as we possibly could and all that kind of stuff. We screwed it up by eventually creating governments and creating, cities and so forth, and creating society and creating all that kind of stuff. And now we have to somehow get away from that, create a better world. And creating a better world is not reforming and changing and improving society. It's about creating something totally different away from society and realizing that nothing else will work. We've tried for hundreds and hundreds of years. Nothing works. We tried reforming, we tried changing the system, we tried improving governments, we tried voting. Nothing works. We tried even different kinds of currencies like cryptocurrency and all that kind of stuff. And none of it really is a long-term viable solution. And so we ultimately really need to create a new society, not society, but we need to create a new world. We need to create a new communities where we totally live differently, where smart people, people with ingenuity and with their intuition, come up with really great ways how to live in harmony with all life and amongst community members, and how to do this without getting thrown into jail by police and all that kind of stuff. And the whole aim really is to build individual communities of probably a few hundred or even a few thousand people, so that there is quantity, there is a lot of number of people that think like us, that want to live like us, like non-conforming anarchists, away from society and governments, and to understand once there is enough people in these places, and realizing that, and I'm going to be actually, in the next couple of years, I'm going to be actually implementing this to Peaceful Village, because this is really, I read two articles by Colin Donahue, and they were so incredible. And now I'm on this incredible journey and understanding. And first it's the understanding and education. Then it's really eventually to actually physically start to do this. And so that's what I want to do. I want to create these kind of communities, having at least 100 people or a few hundred people, maybe 200-300 people in each community, okay? And the community would be in the same vicinity, same area, okay? And there would be probably 5, maybe 6 communities within that community, okay, that big community. And then within the same province, there would be other, or states, there would be other communities just like that one. So if ever there was police intervention or they wanted to throw people in jail or whatever, we could have contact through internet or cell phone or whatever, contact to the other members in other communities around the province and maybe even around the country, and then maybe even around the world, to come together to band to stop that from happening. Now, of course, it would be a non-violent, peaceful kind of, I don't know how to say it, but kind of a stand-in, as you would call it. So a lot of people in the past, and I've read some things about this, and I even talked to people about this, and what they have done, a lot of people in the past, is they never used violence. So what they really did was just stood in. So they were doing a stand-in, basically. So basically just standing and exercising their birth rights. That's basically what they were doing, okay? Now, if you have a small group of people, then most likely, if you don't conform or you don't abide by the police laws or human laws, then you would be thrown into jail, or at least exported out into your country, and all of that stuff, or be fined or whatever. But if we have hundreds or maybe even thousands of people, like community members in that one particular area, or if other community members from other areas of the province come together, physically come together, or come together, from the country or whatever, there would be like communication. So basically, there has to be a plan in order to have these communities set up. And there would be, of course, names for these individual communities and so forth. So basically, how it would work, most likely, and I still haven't, really planned this out, but how it would really work is there would be, let's say, 100 households in that one particular community. So it'll be a local community, okay? Local area community. So let's just give an example. Let's say one area like size of Toronto, 100 households in the one area, given, of course, each person given enough space, so privacy, so 2 acres. People can do whatever they want in that private space they have. Of course, there would be certain community guidelines and values set within the community area, but within your home, you can do anything you like as long as it's non-violent, of course. In the other parts of the community, there would be of course, again, set of community values and guidelines. Okay. Next thing there would be 100 households, just example, 100 households, and there would be at least, let's say, 150 to 200 people in those in the community. Okay, more or less. So there would be at least 100, one person per household or 2 people per household, and everything would be done basically differently, right? So everything is done differently, and we're living a total different lifestyle and totally away from society, and all of a sudden comes police. Okay, now because there's not only this community, there's another community, let's say 5 kilometers down the road, or 5 kilometers from where this one community is. So let's just call this one main community 1. So community 2 would be like 5 kilometers down the road. Another community would be like 15 kilometers down the road, and et cetera, et cetera. There would be, I don't know, maybe 10 of these communities in the province or state. Okay. Then, of course, there would be similar communities outside the province or state in the country, and that would probably be another whatever amount of these communities. And not only is there going to be this one community of 100, but in the vicinity, there's probably 2 or 3 of these communities. So there could be within in a radius of 5 kilometers or 10 kilometers, there could be literally like hundreds or even thousands of people. Imagine thousands of people coming together. Okay, so let's say the police come in and they want to invade our privacy, the community members' privacy. So they come in with all their, their macho machine guns and whatever, their shields and all that kind of stuff. And they come in and they try to evict us from our land. Oh, you're here illegally because you haven't paid for the land. Da, 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 da. Okay. Now there's always going to be like 1 or 2 people that are speaking out, and they probably have a megaphone speaking out to all these cops that come. Now, if the cops already know that this community is there, so they probably were kind of planning this already for last few days or a couple weeks or whatever. So they come in and they stand their ground. Okay, they talk to these people and they stand their ground. They're not going to arrest the people right away. Okay, so there's going to be enough time for other community members to come and join this stand-in. So basically what a stand-in is that people come together, okay, or anybody. It could be one person, for example, but it's strength in numbers, of course. So the more people you have, the better it is. So if you have hundreds or even thousands of people, even better, tens of thousands, then you will see that it's stronger in these numbers, okay? So there are, of course, going to be some people that will still conform and will still like leave or maybe whatever, right? But the people that are die hard, that really want to exercise their birthrights, and they don't care what happens to them. They want to really exercise their birthrights. They want to live on the land for free, the way we're supposed to be living, and not conform to any of this bullshit that the government and the police force, are enforcing. I mean, we don't want to be enslaved, basically. We want to be completely free to live wherever we wish. Of course, that's unoccupied. So, since the government is, or since the police force is there, and however many police there are, usually, probably in the beginning, the first time police come and try to evict us or anything, it'll probably be only like one or two police officers just telling us, "Oh, you need to move out of here. You're here illegally or something. If you don't leave within a certain amount of time, you can be escorted or whatever." So since there's like thousands, like hundreds or even thousands of people, it will be hard to evict somebody. So eventually, the second or third time, they'll come in with so many police personnel, police force personnel, or police officers to basically to evict the community members. But how can they evict so many hundreds or even thousands of people? They'll see even more people coming from other areas, basically. So that's what it is. It's really working together as vegan, non-conforming anarchists. And that's the problem with society today and people living in societies. We're scared to like challenge the system. We're scared. I mean, yeah, some of us may not pay taxes, and yeah, some of us may not have, bank accounts or credit cards or things like that, but we still kind of support system in some way, whatever way it is. And that's the problem. We need to come together as, again, as vegans and and raw vegans, uh, non-conforming anarchists, and create a new community, create a new world we all want to live in. So this audio is a long one because it really goes into the understanding. Now, I went from domestication of animals all the way out up to the topic of nonconformity anarchism. And that means that we should, as much as we possibly can, not support governments in our society. Just walk away completely and go live in nature. Now, of course, again, people are going to protest about this. People are going to say I'm crazy, I'm too naive, or whatever. It's not going to happen. You're crazy. Police are just going to throw you in jail or whatever, right? But we need to exercise our birthrights. We need to understand that we are free, or at least we're supposed to be free, sovereign, individual human beings with the right to our fair share of land, water, and plant foods and seed. But we're not, because we're just indoctrinated and we live in society and we have birth certificates and passports and whatever. And we're so scared to not want to conform. This is the ultimate protest for our complete birthright freedoms. Okay? So some people say, well, we can do that, just buy land and, and conform in some way, and then just listen to the government in some way. And then, no, the world is getting worse. Our society, sorry, the world is not getting worse. The society is getting worse, and governments are getting worse. And now they're going to most likely give us, mandatory vaccines that who knows what they really do to us, changing our DNA and all kinds of microchipping and who knows what else, conforming and making us so subservient to them. I mean, look at it. First of all, we have fluoride in our water supply, or at least a lot of municipalities do, and it actually dumbs us down. It's a mechanism to control population. All the stuff in our society today is really to control the population, to make us live in fear. The media is like basically a voice of the government telling us, we need to conform. Like it's a fear thing. We need to conform because we're so fearful of the government now and what's happening in the world. We need to bar our windows and we need to put locks on our doors. Like, what the hell? We're supposed to be caring for one another, and we're supposed to be, not harming one another and being non-violent and respecting nature and all life. And here we are, uh, saying that we're one another. We have to be afraid of each other. Now we're afraid of terrorists, and now we're afraid of, guns and bombs, and now we have wars everywhere. Come on, wake up, people. Let's band together. Let's create this utopian world we really want to live in. And let's stop supporting this system, this corrupt, this sick system, and with controlled by governments and institutions and whatever. And let's get away from that. Let's change our way of thinking. Please, let's change our way of thinking. We want to all live in a Garden of Eden. Let's get there. The Garden of Eden has no cities. Garden of Eden has no domestication of animals. Garden of Eden has no slaughterhouses, no hospitals, no monetary system, none of that crap. So if we want to live in a Garden of Eden or some similar world to that, then we need to get away from our current world, our current society, and get away from that crap that's really enslaving us and causing so much suffering and violence. Get away from everything. We need to get away from the herding culture. We need to get away from society. We need to get away from governments. We need to get away from police force. Let's plan this all together. Join as one team, creating this world we really want to live in. Let's do it. Let's do it today. So in the next, I don't know how many, how long, but next so many months and a few years now, we're going to be starting to create this through the forum. Like I said, it's called World Vegan Community. And that's what I propose. But I need more people to help and join in. Please join in creating ideas and creating these plans and creating all these documents, because we really do need to work together to create this, to create these official documents, okay? That, like we need to write stuff. We need to create this. We need to really physically plan this. Again, stop conforming and be an anarchist, a full anarchist, full head-on, non-conforming anarchist. Whew, that was a long video. I think one of my longest ones. So thank you all for joining me. There's not much more I can say. I could keep going on and on and on, but thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you. If you listened to this video all the way through, well, tell me down below, please, because I love you. Thank you so much for going through this whole video. You might think I'm a crazy or whatever. That's fine. Think whatever you like. But if we don't create this, utopian Garden of Eden world, if we continue living in society and believing governments and trusting them and paying taxes and all that kind of stuff, man, we're definitely not going to survive any longer. We're going to kill ourselves and kill all the animals on this earth. And we really need to stop and think, rethink, and start questioning everything. So give this video a thumbs up. Please share it around with everybody. It's so important that you listen to this video again, maybe. Re-listen to it. And I really appreciate you staying till the end. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Share it around to all your friends and family. Whoever will find it useful. And don't forget, this is not just about domestication of animals, but it's all about leaving society. Being vegan is the number one thing, but leaving society, leaving governments, standing and exercising our birthrights, all this kind of stuff. So don't forget to share this video and subscribe to the YouTube channel and to my email newsletter. And don't forget to get my books, because especially the newest one, which talks a little bit about this issue, called The Journey to Awakening, with music by Moby. And yeah, it's just an introduction. I'm going to be writing a bigger and thicker book and audiobook about this, how to actually create it, and really how to physically create this new, I shouldn't say system, but this new community, world vegan community. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for being here. I love you all, and please do your part and join the forum and come and join the discussion. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Michael Landfield, and thank you for being here. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Take care, everyone.